A dead motel looks like shelter for about 10 minutes. After that, it starts turning you into a pattern. That is the danger most drifters miss. They see doors, walls, a roofline, a room that still resembles the old world. And tired people love old world shapes. That is how they get themselves trapped. Because a dead motel does not fail all at once. It fails by helping everyone think the same thought. I move through a roadside motel block at late dusk. Half the signage is gone, windows blown out, walkways exposed, doors hanging wrong, dead cars rusting near the curb, railings bent, debris caught in corners where the wind keeps score. To a tired drifter, it still looks promising. That is exactly the problem. A motel gives you just enough enclosure to feel relief before it starts taking away your advantage. It offers privacy without true concealment, structure without control, shelter without trust. And once the light starts dropping, all the parts that felt familiar begin working against you. So today, I am mapping why dead motels become trap ground by nightfall. Not because they are always unusable, because most people read them wrong. First problem, a dead motel is too legible. That means the structure is easy to read, not just for you, for everyone. A tired drifter sees the same things every other tired drifter sees. A row of rooms, a covered walkway, corners, shadowed doorways, a place to get out of the wind, a place to lie down without sleeping in open ground. That feels like shelter logic. It is actually repetition logic. The motel tells people where to go. That is what makes it dangerous. Good shelter in the dead world usually buys uncertainty. A dead motel does the opposite. It organizes attention. If I can stand across the lot and guess the first 5 doors a tired body would try, then so can anyone else with eyes and half a plan. That means a room is not just a room. It is a prediction, and predictions get checked. The more obvious the shelter choice, the less shelter it really is. That is the part desperate people hate hearing. Because when they are cold, wet, fading, or carrying too much, convenience starts sounding like survival. It is not. Convenience is what gets mapped first, and a dead motel is one of the easiest structures on Earth to map. Second problem, motels are built around bad sightlines. Not hidden sightlines, bad ones. You get rows, angles, exterior walkways, window lines, door lines, rail lines, long looks down repeat geometry. That is terrible if you are trying not to be read. From the outside, a motel makes checking for occupancy easy. One curtain wrong, one door gap, one movement behind cracked blinds, one silhouette crossing the room, one shadow where no shadow should be. That is all it takes. And from the inside, it gets worse. A lot of rooms feel enclosed, but they blind you. You can hear something outside and still not know enough. You can peek and expose yourself. Stay back and lose information. Move toward the door and commit too early. The room becomes a bad bargain. You traded mobility for weak enclosure and poor read capacity. That is not shelter. That is hesitation with walls. Good shelter gives me better information than the ground around it. A dead motel usually gives me less. And if the structure knows more about me than I know about the structure, I am already losing. Third problem, motels tell on sound. People think of motels as quiet because they remember them as private. Wrong world. A dead motel is full of surfaces that report movement, loose doors, exterior rails, walkway grit, broken glass, room debris, bathroom tile, old fixtures, wall vibration, stair metal, thin thresholds that click, tap, drag, or scrape when you are already too committed to move softly. And sound in a motel travels in ugly ways. Corridors exaggerate it, walkways carry it, courtyards bounce it, thin walls smear it just enough to make everything ambiguous and dangerous. That is a bad combination, because you hear enough to worry, but not always enough to decide. Now you are awake inside a structure that turns every small sound into a question. Was that wind, a door, a rail, a footstep, someone checking rooms, someone settling into the room next to yours? someone listening for you while you listen for them. That is how dead motels wear people down. Not always with immediate violence, with uncertainty, with forced interpretation, with the slow cost of trying to sleep inside a place that keeps translating movement into doubt. And tired minds get expensive fast. Fourth problem: the room is not the real trap. The layout is. That is what most people miss. They keep thinking in room logic. Is the bed dry? Does the door close? Can I block the window? Can I sit in the bathroom if I have to? Those questions are too small. A motel is a system, and the system is what turns bad. Open lot, visible approaches, repeated entries, shared walkway logic, stair funnels, room after room sweep potential, predictable hiding places, predictable rest points, predictable panic routes. That means once someone decides to work the structure, the whole motel starts helping them. Not because it is tactical, because it is repetitive. A person moving room to room does not need imagination. The building gives them sequence. That is what makes the place dangerous after nightfall. Darkness does not make the motel safer. It makes the repeated structure harder to read cleanly from inside while staying easy to probe from outside. So no, I do not judge a motel by whether one room seems workable. I judge it by whether the full layout helps me stay uncertain, mobile, and hard to sweep. Most of them do not. Fox rule. The block that looks convenient to you usually looks convenient to everyone else too. That is the lesson. Convenience is not a reward. Convenience is a flag. It tells me where tired thinking gathers. A motel shines with that kind of false mercy. It offers a shape people already understand, and in the dead world, familiar shapes are dangerous because familiar shapes attract familiar choices. So I do not ask whether a motel room feels usable. I ask whether the whole structure makes me easier to predict. If the answer is yes, the room is already losing value. That is the drift trick. Stop reading shelter from the inside out. Read it from the outside in. Ask what the building tells other people. Ask where the structure teaches them to check first. Ask whether the place makes your rest look obvious. If it does, move on. A hard rest in an awkward place is often safer than a soft rest inside a structure everybody else can solve. That is not comfort logic. That is survival logic. Now watch the trap close. A tired drifter reaches the motel near dark. He sees one door that still swings, one room that still looks mostly dry, curtains half intact, bathroom inside, wall at his back. He thinks he found shelter. What he actually found was the first answer on a very short list. He goes in, sets the bag down, checks the room too narrowly, focuses on the bed, the corners, the door, the window. Small logic. Then night starts leaning on the structure. Something moves on the walkway. A door farther down taps once, then again. A shape crosses broken light outside the curtain line. The stairwell carries sound the wrong way. The rail gives back a small metallic complaint. Now the room is no longer shelter. It is a box full of delayed decisions. Leave now, and you move late. Stay longer, and the structure keeps narrowing your options. That is how a dead motel traps people. Not by springing shut, by helping them settle into the most predictable place on the block. That is the payoff. A motel only feels safe if you confuse enclosure with safety. I do not need a room that resembles the old world. I need ground that does not help strangers solve me. So next time you see a dead motel at dusk, do not ask the tired question. Not, can I sleep here? Wrong question. Ask better ones. Who else would choose this first? What can see the walkway? How many exits turn into funnels? What sounds here report movement? What does this structure teach strangers to check? That is how I read a dead motel, not as shelter, as a machine for organizing bad decisions. And once the light goes, machines like that start working fast. What dead place should I map next? Drop the next drift.